This is Building Lifestyles, a show designed to help everyday Australians create a lifestyle that inspires them using property development strategies. On the show, you'll hear from everyday people changing their lives doing property development. You'll learn from their successes as well as some of the challenges they've faced along the way. We also talk to experts from a range of fields who share specialised techniques that you can use to accelerate your property journey. I'm your host, Amanda McEwen, and I'm the founder of The Rising Star Developer, and I'm really passionate about helping everyday Australians build lifestyle using property development. Hey everyone, it's Amanda here, founder of The Rising Star Developer and host of Building Lifestyles. Today's episode is a little different. It's a special one that I wanted to share with you from the heart. Recently, I completed a 500-kilometre charity bike ride through Thailand in March to raise funds for Hands Across the Water. It was one of the toughest and most rewarding things I've ever done, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. The ride wasn't just about the distance. It was about the purpose, community, and pushing past limits, something we talk about regularly here on Building Lifestyles. So on this episode, I'm taking you behind the scenes of the journey, what I learnt, what challenged me, and how this experience ties back into the way we build wealth and freedom through property and purpose. So let's dive in. So in March, I rode 500 kilometres in 5 days through the back streets in the heart of Thailand. Here's the kicker, I'm not even a cyclist and I'd barely ridden a bike for 5 years. So why did I do this? Well, this year marked a milestone birthday for me and I wanted to do something meaningful, something that would push me mentally, physically and emotionally, and something also that made a difference. When I heard about the charity ride to support Hands Across Water, a beautiful organisation that was born in the Boxing Day tsunami that happened 20 years ago. This charity provides homes, not orphanages, for children who not only lost everything for that day, but for children now who, for whatever reason, can't stay with their families, whether it's because their parents can't support them or it's not safe for them. So that's why it's now called a home instead of an orphanage. And it just felt right. It felt like all the stars were aligning. And also December last year marked 20 years since the tsunami hit that killed 250,000 people. Still today, the largest number of fatalities in a single day. And this ride, this cause, it just connected with me. So I signed up. When I told my husband, who was a cyclist, that I was going to do this, he looked at me as if I was absolutely nuts. He said to me, do you even know how far 100 kilometres a day is? And I said to him, not really, but that was possibly a good thing. So I started training. I borrowed a smart trainer from one of our cycling buddies and used an app called Ruby where I could choose the distance, time, incline and location. So I'd ride under my stand-up desk while I worked through the virtual streets of Amsterdam, Italy, Africa. Every spare hour I had, I was pedaling. I avoided the roads because I wasn't comfortable with traffic, and I rode on paths between Oakbank and Mount Torrens in South Australia and along the bike track near the Torrens River. And as my fitness improved, something incredible happened. I usually get a niggling lower back, but because my body was getting stronger, all of that lower back pain just completely disappeared. I don't normally cope well with the heat given the stage of life I'm at. So I started to do hot yoga so I could try and get used to heat, knowing how hot it was going to be in Thailand. And some days in Thailand, it hit 39 degrees. So my body handled it well because of that preparation. I trained hard. I got my own seat and pedals fitted, and I was determined to be as prepared as I could because I didn't just want to survive this ride. I wanted to enjoy it and thrive. I had fun, right? I had a $5,000 target to hit, which seemed huge in the beginning. I wasn't really comfortable asking people for money. What I did is I ran a life planning workshop through my Rising Star business, and I created an AI workshop with one of my business mentors. And I sold those for a fee with all the proceeds going towards my fundraising. And I also am a big believer in circular fashion. So I sold a bunch of my clothes. So at first the 5,000 felt like a massive goal, but in the end I ended up raising $8,230, which I'm really proud of. So let's talk about the ride. Day one was 86 kilometres. Bear in mind that the longest I'd ever ridden during training was 50 kilometres. So I was nervous, I was overwhelmed, but I was hoping that my training was going to pull me through. But interestingly, halfway during lunch on that very first day, I was sitting on the ground stretching and suddenly I felt really weird. I felt a bit woozy. And then I started looking around, and everyone who was sitting on seats just said, hang on a second, did you actually feel that earthquake? It turns out that we were experiencing tremors from a 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Myanmar. Thousands of lives were lost there, and a building collapsed in Bangkok. We'd only left Bangkok 2 days earlier, but the whole city went into gridlock. Parks were open so that people could sleep in parks because people were really nervous about the aftershock. And it was a really surreal experience to be over there experiencing that when you read the media and then see the magnitude of what we've felt at the time. So that night we also fell into a routine. We'd get back from our ride, we'd wash our gear in the sink, swim, maybe have a beer at the pool, and then we'd have dinner together. And every night we'd have finds. It's a fun tradition where we'd self-nominate for silly things like dropping a water bottle or chain coming off. And if you self-nominate, you'd pay 50 baht, which is equivalent to like $2.50. And if you didn't own up, then there was a round where people could dobby win and you get charged 100 baht. And it was a bit of fun. And what it did, it actually bonded us as a group. There were 25 of us together. And it was a great way to actually reflect on the ride, given that at some stages you're at different parts of the ride. So it was a great way to connect, but also to raise some more money for the Hands Across the Water charity. So we also, what the great thing was, we ended up raising, because of the fines, over 10,000 baht, which helped take the children of the home out to a movie, dinner and a movie, which is a rare treat for them. And we also replaced a 30-year-old freezer from the kitchen. So day 2 was 107 kilometres, and I was really nervous about this because day 1 was hard enough. What I did is I broke it down into smaller chunks and then just kept pedaling. Day 3 was a really big one, 129 kilometres. And after doing 107 kilometres, I thought, you know what, I can do this. And for those 2 big days, giving up wasn't even an option. So I had to really draw on the mental game to push me through. And I also ended up wearing 2 pairs of Nicks because, as you can imagine, after riding 87 Ks and then 107 Ks, my butt was starting to get a bit tender. But it actually, double Nicks really did help. And also getting through the 129 Ks, we also had a rest day the next day. So on the rest day, I had a massage, and then we had a quiet bus ride as we cut across the peninsula to the other side of Thailand, which was actually the coastline that was affected by the Boxing Day tsunami. Day 4 was 117 kilometres, and I was feeling more confident because I thought, you know, I've got this. I've done 100 Ks, I've done 107 Ks, I've done 129 Ks. Surely I can do 117 Ks. So I was feeling more confident, but then what happened, I'd actually left my charger at a hotel a couple of days before. And so one leg after lunch, which was 24 Ks, and my Garmin on my bike died. And I didn't realize how much I relied on that Garmin, not just physically, but mentally. And that final 24-kilometer leg after lunch nearly broke me. It was hot. It was over 39 degrees. My feet were cramping. But I didn't have the security of the Garmin to think to myself, okay, another 2 Ks, another 2 Ks. And it was the hardest leg. And I genuinely, it was the first time out of all of those 4 days that I thought, you know, I'm not sure if I can actually do this. So I had to really dig deep. And then what would happen is the faster riders, they would get to the end to our water stop, and then they would turn back and actually ride down to the last rider and help ride back with them. And it was an amazing thing for them to do. So I called them my guardian bike angels. And that ride, when I saw the faster rider coming towards me and say to me, you've only got 2 Ks to go, it was like a weight just lifted off my shoulders. And I thought, okay, I can do this now. And all I need to do is just push through. And then that's when it really hit me. My Garmin was my safety net because it reminded me how much we rely on tools, routines, and even certainty to stay in control. And without it, I really had to dig deep, trust more, and then focus on just not the actual why, but then how to actually get there. And then day 5 was a final stretch. And I thought 57 kilometers, I thought, you know what, after what I've done, it's going to be easy, right? I was so wrong. It was the hilliest day of all, and our legs were already fried. Our bodies were aching. And then we had one leg, which was an 8% gradient, and it lasted for nearly 4 kilometers. So I had to get up out of the saddle. I played music for the first time just to help me get through that. And I did get through it because I kept reminding myself of who I was riding for, the beautiful little girl whose photo was tapped to my handlebars. And then we stopped at an elephant conservation park. We fed them, bathed them, and I was in animal heaven. And we rode to a temple, which was really interesting. It was a temple that Peter Baines, the founder of Hands Across the Water, He was one of the first responders there 20 years ago, identifying bodies after the tsunami. So we were in the same temple, the same floors, the same walls, and hearing Peter explain his experience where he was surrounded by thousands of decomposing bodies, you just can't begin to imagine it. It was really eerie, it was powerful, and it was humbling. And then from there, we all actually rode together as a team through the streets of Khao Lak into the home that we were raising funds for. And the kids had been waiting for an hour. They were waving and cheering. And the moment we pulled in is when most of us who were on the bike ride just broke. There were tears, there were hugs. We've got given a floral wreath put on our head, and there was so much laughter and joy. And then I had this little teenage girl who gently took my hand and then proudly showed me through the home and her room and things like that. And what was really amazing was there was so much joy and so much love. And we got there and they'd organised a lunch for us, and we had the children doing some traditional Thai dancing, which was amazing. And we had brought some gifts and shared those with the kids. And it was one of the most moving experiences of my life. And then, like magic, the skies opened up. It was torrential rain just pouring down. And it was uncanny. It was like 2 hours after we'd actually just finished our ride. So we were dry, we were safe, we were celebrating. Clearly someone was looking out for us. And that night we went back to the home and partied. And these kids know how to have fun. There was little ones way past their bedtime, high on sugar and life. We danced and laughed and hugged and celebrated something so much bigger than ourselves. But I wanted to share with you the biggest lessons that I took from the ride. One of the first things is we are so much more capable than we think. Because I had my imposter syndrome, I had that crazy flatmate in my head telling me, who are you to ride 500 Ks? I'm not even a cyclist. And that imposter syndrome and crazy flatmate in the head quite often can actually make us play small. But when you actually rise above that, you can actually do so much more than you think you can. And I think when you push yourself outside of your comfort zone and actually achieve whatever you thought you couldn't do, it really does give you a whole new confidence and belief in yourself that you can do so much more than you ever thought was possible. So when you prepare, you take action and stay the course, you can do so much more than you ever believed. The second thing is it's not always about the why, it's about the how. When you're deep in the trenches and it's about doing what it takes. For me, it was about hydrating, cooling down, pushing one pedal at a time. And in property, it's the same thing. The why gets you started, but it's the how that actually helps you get through. And luckily, with Inside the Inner Circle, I help provide the how, the step-by-step instructions about what to do to be able to get into your deals. And then thirdly, be proud of yourself. There's no tall poppy syndrome here. And when you do something incredible, just own it and let that pride expand what you believe is possible, because it can be the launch pad to your next big, bold thing. So I hope sharing my story with you has left you with something, maybe a little spark, a nudge, a reminder that you can take on so much more than you think. Thank you for being here, for listening, for being part of my journey. And wherever you are, whether it's on the bike in the middle of a development or just even thinking about taking your next big step, I hope you remember this. Say yes before you're ready and trust the how will show up. So thanks for riding with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening. This is Building Lifestyles, a show designed to help everyday Australians create a lifestyle that inspires them using property development strategies. This podcast was produced by the Rising Star Developer. We've been helping Australians realise their financial and lifestyle goals since 2020. We play a pivotal role in educating, supporting and celebrating the goals and successes of our students and our community. To find out how we can help you realise your property, wealth and lifestyle goals, head to our website www.risingstardeveloper.com.au. To make sure you don't miss an episode of Building Lifestyles, be sure to subscribe to and follow the show in your favourite podcast app. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review, as it really helps others find the show. I'm Amanda McEwen, and we'll be back next episode with more tips on how you can build your lifestyle.